So let me briefly, everybody knows who Kino is or they wouldn't be here tonight, but Kino Satoshi is truly one of the great rising stars on the ceramic stage today. He has won since there you see his biography there. This was just literally updated a few days ago because he has won yet another award, the special prize from the Taiwan International Ceramics Biennale. And he's had other works entering the collections of museums in Europe, in Taiwan, in Japan, and of course, the United States. So we are here to hear from him himself, as well as to hear tonight from all our participants, just what is it about Kino Satoshi that captures your attention, that sets him apart from the work of all these other artists who are brilliant craftsmen in the world of contemporary clay, and what sets his oeuvre on a level that could be transcendent of what's come before. So my first question is to Rob Metz. Rob, recently the Asian Art Museum received a gift of one of Kino-san's Oroshi series and displayed it in the gallery. What kind of reactions did you see among the visitors who encountered this masterwork? And why do you think the public is so predisposed to like Japanese sculptural work as opposed to functional work?
Great question. Thanks, Joan. And hi, everybody. It's so nice to see people who I know who are locals here in San Francisco, and then also people from New York and from Japan and from everywhere in between, and New Orleans. Hi, Lisa. It's really, this is kind of a wonderful thing. And when Joan asked, would we participate? I found myself thinking, do what? Another meeting? It's just like work. This isn't like work. This is like a party. Which is so, but to your question, I think, it was interesting to watch people and see this work because they are accustomed, I think, to thinking of clay, be it contemporary clay or traditional clay, as the material, as you said, for functional items, for conventional vessels and forms that are very familiar. And here was something that was gravity defying, that was intriguing, that seemed sort of organic, but really not organic. And it seems, I saw people move close and then far, and then to try to understand the dimensionality of the piece in space. And I think it was evidence of their understanding a kind of fundamental tension that exists in these works, that gravity is pulling on them and yet they defy gravity and they reach up into the air. And at the same time, it appears to be two-dimensional, it appears to be three-dimensional, it defines space, and yet that space is empty space. So I think, it drew people in a very interesting way that many works, particularly abstract works in the collection, don't. And so I think it was a hit. It was certainly a popular work and one that left people thinking, wow, what's coming next?
Wonderful. Tracy, do you have my microphone on? I don't know.
Yes, you are.
Okay. I have one more question for Rob before I move on to Lisa. How would you compare, Rob, because you're so familiar with the whole array of contemporary Japanese clay, the work of the Kyoto-based Kino to the work of his senior Fukami Sueharu? Or perhaps Yagi Akira too.
Yeah. I think, so when I first saw Kino-san's work, I did think about Fukami-san, and I did think about the traditions of these, pale celadon glazed porcelains. But I think very quickly you see that something fundamentally different is happening with these works. Fukami-san's work was ground blazing and continues to be just wonderful and exciting, and yet I think Kino-san is really moving in a direction that's much more intimate, that's much more personal. The scale, in part, being sort of tangible scale, hand scale, makes it somehow just a little bit more sensitive, more tender. I think Fukami-san's work in many cases makes me think, ooh, it's a little threatening. It's big, it's bold, it's dramatic. And that works for audiences, around the world. But works like this really pull you in and demand of you a kind of one-on-one exchange. And, I think in that lies something of, at least what I appreciate about Kino-san's work, is really that ability to make a personal connection that maybe his predecessors, perhaps it wasn't even a concern of theirs, that they were blazing different ground. So.
That's really interesting, Rob. You will find that as the evening progresses, we're going to learn about works that are larger than 3 feet broad.
That's going to make them less personal.
Yeah. So we shall put this in a context as we proceed. Thanks so much.
Sure.
Lisa, in your case at New Orleans Museum of Art, how do you find that the public reacted somewhat differently than how Rob experienced it in San Francisco?
Well, to some degree. So our audience is obviously different. So we fall within the encyclopedic art museum, segment. And so our visitors have very different points of entry into the world of Asian art and certainly to Japanese ceramics. And we display contemporary and modern ceramics within our Japanese galleries and have done so for probably 20 years. But they're not so familiar with the range of what contemporary artists are creating. So Kino-san's work was really a revelation, I think, for many of our visitors. And we do have a very clay conversant community. We have a long tradition of a ceramic creation in New Orleans and in the South. So there are many, many potters who come. And for them, it was fascinating to talk to them in the galleries. They viewed this almost as a deconstructed vessel. They understood it as ceramic, but they looked at it as part of a whole in a way. And they were really struck by the tension, as Rob was pointing out, of the materiality of the object. Because of course, as we all know, they're heavy. They're very heavy and they're very robust objects, but they look so ephemeral. They look so light and like a brushstroke, really. And that was one of the things that, for us, we are able to show ceramics in immediate proximity to paintings. And so many of our visitors see this as sort of a brushstroke made visible or manifest in clay.
I love your comment, Lisa, because it reminds me, I saw the exhibition and that was wonderful. And there are a couple of shots I took and then we used for my book Allure, where you were juxtaposing ceramics against beautiful Zen Buddhist calligraphy. And it was perfect, absolutely perfect. So I agree with you completely. Might I say, with that show, with the Gitter show, New Forms and New Voices, could you speak to how you chose to take Kino's works and place them within the context of that exhibition? I was there, I remember it very well, but I suspect that the majority of people who are seated here today don't know how you chose to display them.
Well, it was for us the opportunity to show this work in the New Forms, New Voices, and I think I should start really with the catalog, because it was the catalog cover that really pointed the direction and gave visitors a sense of what they should expect from the show. It was going to be full of great works by wonderful artists, many who were, recognizable, certainly to the people participating tonight and highly revered, but also to those who had no experience with Japanese ceramics. It was a great point of entry into the field. And so to place the works, we obviously put them with other Celadon works in this particular instance. But once the work was gifted to the museum by Alice and Kurt after the close of the exhibition, this sculpture has never been off view. It's been in the galleries for the last several years because it relates to everything. It relates to every object that we have, whether they were created 200 years before, or 400 years before, or are contemporary. So it really was about contrast, in a sense. Many of the works in the Gitter-Yellen collection are vessels. Of course, there are sculptural works and abstract works, but many of them were vessels. And this sculpture was placed in juxtaposition with more traditionally formed objects. And so I think it just shone in its location.
That's so exciting to hear, and I can't wait to when Kino-san joins us to hear his reaction to your comments. I can't wait. I wish I could see his face now. I mean, I'm Jewish, and he should be melting with joy to hear he should be. Velling is the word.
we're melting with joy to have it in our collection, and we're very grateful to Kurt and Alice for it.
Thank you, Lisa. Carol Conover. I say Carol Conover because we got two Carols here. Carol, how did you first encounter the work of Kino Satoshi? Where did you find him?
I first saw Kino's work at your gallery, Joan, in the fall of 2017. And I would say it was absolutely love at first sight for me. And I have never bought a Japanese ceramic in my life. I'm a Chinese ceramic person. I'm a specialist. I collect Chinese ceramics, but I'm not an impulse buyer, but I was for this piece, the piece that I bought. I absolutely just completely fell in love.
So Carol, you fell in love. So what about his work do you feel, with your substantial expertise in things Celadon and your grounding in the world of clay, profoundly from Asia, spanning, I guess, about 5,000 years. What about Kino Satoshi's work captivated you? What was it?
Well, at first, I was thinking it sort of looks like Yingqing ware. But what really does it for me is that one of my most favorite kinds of ceramics is ceramics, monochromes made in the Yongjung period, and especially Celadons. It's like around 1730. And the color of those Celadons, it's a very short period in China. This work reminded me of that, because it's extremely fine. It doesn't, like the earlier period is a very different color. The next period is very finicky, but this is a very, very subtle color. And it's not so much the Yingqing ware of the Song Dynasty as much as the Qing monochrome for me.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Carol.